So that's a good topic for her to sort of understand the lay of the land.
Yeah, you have various techniques, right? Drip irrigation only takes 20% of the water that flood irrigation takes. So there are all so many people have already researched it. But our goal is not to become farmers. Our goal is to come close to nature
Yep.
to please Krishna. Because if you look at any picture of Krishna with his cowherd boys, it is in a rural setting. It is not in front of a skyscraper. Krishna lives in a rural setting. He doesn't like
Mhm.
this materialistic expansion that we are after, right? So whatever he
Correct.
likes, we should like. Then we'll be dear to him, right? We have to
Mhm.
kind of follow his pattern rather than create our own pattern. So
Definitely.
there is this movement called permaculture movement where people want to work with nature and not fight nature. So people have fought with nature for the last 40 years using artificial fertilizers, pesticides, um, filling up wherever there were ponds and covering it up with dirt and building homes. Like the Chennai floods happened because all the ponds that were there in the city for catchment of rainwater were all filled with mud and they built big, big buildings on top. So where will the water go when it rains, right? So we don't fight with natural patterns, but we actually work with patterns. So in the Western hemisphere, actually in Australia, there is this person called Bill Mollison who said cooperation, not competition, is the very basis of existing. And he's considered uh, the modern discoverer of permaculture. Of course, it has been there in the Vedic system for millions of years. But, unless somebody modern comes with a modern view, people will not believe it, right? If you say the same thing, chant Hare Krishna, nobody will do it. But when George Harrison, the Beatles, started chanting Hare Krishna, a lot of people said, wow, that is so cool. I will also chant because my rock star is chanting Hare Krishna, right? So there are three themes: faith, family, and farming. So you have faith, you take care of your family, and then you farm. These three things will basically keep us close to nature and close to God. So, why permaculture? There are three basic pushes. One is society, second is environment, and third is economy. People are struggling right now. Like I was researching in parts of Texas, annual salary is $20,000. Like annual, income for a person is $20,000 a year, and we probably spend that just on groceries. People living in the Sammamish Plateau or in Bellevue, here homes run like $1.5 million, right? Annual income for people in America, in parts of America, is 20K. And then there is society, like, we are living in this diverse world, and there's so many ups and downs and challenges. So people talk about Black Lives Matter, but actually we should talk about all souls matter. That was the theme of my Facebook post. If you are not on my Facebook, join my Facebook. If you are not on my LinkedIn, join my LinkedIn. I'll be posting these tidbits once in a while. And then third is the environment. Environment is getting uh, messed up right now, right? For the last 3 months during the lockdown, I've been researching what's happening to the environment, how to stay away from this crazy world that we are living in, where everything is getting pushed on us from various angles, right? So, yeah, we have to do something substantial, otherwise, we'll be stuck, right? Something substantial from a spiritual perspective, which translates into our day to day material activity. Because if we don't do that, what will happen? We'll just get sucked in. Right now, nobody could control COVID, nobody could control the protests on Black Lives Matter. So we'll be stuck. We'll be sucked into that vortex. So, any thoughts on this one? Yeah, so this is an interactive session, so you have to say something.
Just taking in all these various concepts that is written here. Some of these, yes, I can correlate because these are things that we keep talking about, right? So I'm trying to figure out how are these like, I mean, even if it is not called permaculture, some of these things already happen, right? So why are we calling these things like thinking
No,
about?
this is why permaculture. This is not permaculture. This is the three drivers that are forcing us in the modern society. So permaculture is a way to address it.
Ah, okay, got it.
Okay, so the basic principles are: what is the location of various things? What are the various functions, elements of permaculture that will feed the design principles? Energy efficiency, biological resources, recycling energy, small
Mm-hmm.
scale. You do intensive farming on a small scale. You accelerate succession, promote diversity of crops and plants and various breeds. Then you look at the awareness of the edge. So on the edge of the property, you put in various kinds of trees that protect us from winds and things like that. And then something called as attitudinal principles. So in permaculture, you have a closed ecosystem. We talked about in our soil science course how under the ground we have fungi, nematodes, protozoa, mites, and above the ground we have arthropods, animals, organic matter. Then you have bird droppings, and then the birds come and eat some of these different insects. So there is a balance, right? Without that balance, things can go pretty bad, right? And even the simple dandelion that you see outside in the yard has very deep roots. It just keeps going down and down like that.
Mm.
So this holistic system. Okay, Rekha, can you read these principles?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Relative location. Seek to build working relationships between each element so that the needs of one element are filled by the outputs of another element. Core of permaculture is design. Design is a connection between things. To enable a design component to function efficiently, we must put it in the right place. Functional analysis is a tool to realize the full potential of each element by examining products and behaviors, needs, and intrinsic characteristics. Each element performs many functions. Each element in the system should be chosen and placed so that it performs as many functions as possible. Use relative location so elements with diverse functions have their qualities perpetuated. Each important function is supported by many elements. Important basic needs such as water, food, and fire protection should be served in two or more ways. Efficient energy planning, zone and sector placement with slope and other factors are taken into consideration for maximizing our time, energy, and monetary resources. Zone planning refers to the placement of elements based on their intensity of use and management. Sector planning is about placing design components to manage incoming wild energies to our advantage or to mitigate their effects. Slope means looking at a site in profile to maximize energy flow, that is gravity and convection.
Okay, continue.
Using biological resources is the key strategy to develop sustainable systems, save energy, and do the work of the farm. Their building upon the location is a long-term investment. They have to be managed carefully and their integration needs to be thoroughly considered in the planning period and during their usage. Careful management and adherence to proper timing is essential. Animal tractors. Use animals to clear land, such as chickens in the garden, goats on a bramble patch, or pigs to help turn over a potato field. Pest control integrate specific plants to create refuges for beneficial insects such as those from the plant families of aster, umbel, and mint. Additionally, design in bird and bat houses, small ponds, rock and stick piles, as well as large hollow logs to create habitat for various species such as small reptiles. Fertilizers. Use the manure from animals to create soil as well as diverse plantings that include nitrogen fixing plants, alfalfa, clover, black locust, as well as dynamic accumulators, comfrey, nettles, so that chop and drop can be employed. Energy cycling. Permaculture systems intend to stop the flow of energies off-site and instead turn them into cycles. The interaction between plants and animals produces energy which is caught, stored, used, and recycled. Incoming energy, sun, water, wind, manures are used at its highest possible use, then its next highest, and so on. Source to sink. Moving water across the landscape in a series of interlinking ponds to prevent erosive runoff. Cascading nutrients, turning the waste of one product into a multitude of other products using various life kingdoms like plants, animals, bacteria, and fungus. Kitchen waste to compost and animal manure to biogas, grey water to garden, etc.
So you see, this is a closed loop system. So whatever energy is coming out of one type of animal is used for something else. So basically chicken waste refuse is used as fertilizer. And there are various kinds of insects in that fertilizer that will be eaten by the birds. So it is to recreate a tropical ecosystem. So it's all what happens in a tropical jungle, whether it's in deep India or especially in Africa. Nobody is physically doing anything. Seeds are falling, plants are coming, trees are dying, they're becoming fertilizer. So this cycle is continuing. So basically creating this natural cycle doesn't need artificial fertilizers or pesticides, right? So to kill a pest, you employ some birds like that. You see the point? So there is a closed loop system.
Yeah. So one question here, Prabhuji, in point number 6, there is a sentence called the interaction between plants and animals produces energy. What do we mean by that?
Yeah, so some animals come and rub on the barks of the trees, and then the tree barks they fall down, like, and then the barks are used by other living entities to get the heat and not light but mostly heat, like that, right? So there is energy whenever two species interact with each other, and we'll get into that. We'll see that.
Okay.
So they're animal tractors, right? If you have chickens, they will dig up they'll keep on picking the ground for worms. And that itself will actually clean up the ground.
Yeah,
Right?
I have heard of goats also similar fashion, which is
That's
like
what they say, goats
if
on
you
run.
want to control all these crazy things, weeds and all that, just leave goats there. For 2 days, everything will be cleared.
Yeah. And I didn't know this, but pigs are used to help turn over a potato field. Like pigs will come and they'll dig through it. I've never heard of this, but apparently it is true.
Yeah, even I have not heard. I have heard goats because I mean, practically I have seen people use it. Chickens, which is a known thing, but pigs, yeah, even I didn't know.
Okay, continue, please.
Small scale intensive systems fully develop the nucleus before moving on, planning for highly intensive biologically based food, fiber, and energy production at the doorstep. Plant stacking. Use varying heights of plants to obtain yields from more than one layer. Time stacking. In combination with the above, utilize species that provide yields yearly, thus gaining quick rewards from the intensive energy input of developing a space for a long-term yield such as avocados or macadamias. Accelerate succession and evolution. Direct plants, animals, and soil life towards complexity and diversity to build our own climax species in a shorter time. Forward your agriculture systems to more permanence, whether it is a grassland or a food forest. Utilize invasive species to your advantage. Substitute your own pioneers and climax species that have multiple functions. Diversity. The sum of the yields in a mixed system will be larger than in a monoculture. Stability is produced when elements are cooperating. Not the number of elements is central, but their functional connections. It can be summed through the examination of the dynamic interplay of order and chaos, entropy, tidiness, control, and creativity.
Yeah, so
Guilds.
dynamic interplay means sometimes it's orderly, sometimes it's chaotic. There is interplay with that. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. Guilds are close associations of species around a central element. Rely on composition and placement of species which benefit each other. They aid in reducing root competition, providing physical shelter, providing nutrients, and assisting in pest control.
Yeah. So nature has a way. We just have to apply those techniques. Diversity is very important. If you just have a corn patch, right? What happens? 100 acres of corn patch. There is no diversity. So when rodents and pests come, there is nobody to stop them. But when you
Yep.
have diversity, these things will take care of each other. So one species will go and finish those pests. Okay, continue.
Yeah, it's like don't put all eggs in a basket, right? It's
Yeah, but
similar
that is a
concept.
very, karmy way of saying it. We don't
Correct,
even
correct.
want to eat eggs, so we won't even use those analogies. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
see your
okay,
point, but yeah,
okay. Edge effects. Edges are places of varied ecology as they share resources between two distinct ecosystems and are known as a net and sieve for energy. We can increase the yield of the system by manipulating where two ecosystems meet and designing in their unique species. Here, the patterns of nature merge to utilize their inspiration with our creativity. Attitudinal principles. Problem is the solution. Every resource is either an advantage or disadvantage, depending on the use made out of it. The yield is theoretically unlimited. The only limit to the number of uses of a resource within a system is only limited to the information and imagination of the designer. Work with nature, not against. We need to assist rather than impede natural processes, essential to comprehend and copy. Everything gardens. Every creature sets up conditions so that it can thrive. They create and carve their niche in an interconnected web of life. Least change for the greatest effect. When designing, use our intuition to guide the inherent regenerative qualities so that energy is not squandered.
yeah. So don't waste energy. Essentially, everything should be used. So here is interconnectedness. Here is a beautiful rug. You see this design. Where did the design come from? This interconnectedness from Mother Nature, like that. Harmony. All right. So have a layout on the ground which is very similar to the layout on a peacock's, beautiful feathers, like that. So harmony, interconnectedness. And then patterns are to do with order, with design and structure. So put something in a pattern, not do artificially, right? So you see that everything is a design. So when you plant on the ground, you follow a particular type of design. And then here is a core model. There is design under at the ground, and then there is a design above the ground. So there are various theories which they are following to come up with certain types of designs on the ground. So there is a science of spacing. So you may have almond plant in one place, apple plant next to it, and the intermediate places you are having maybe spinach or kale or something, so that every inch is used. Normally you see
Mhm.
either fruit trees or you see just spinach patch. But here we are
Mm.
talking about like apricots, peaches, apples, plums, nectarines, cherries. So you get everything, right, in one shot. And this is feet, basically, right? So if you see, the distance between the two is roughly 15 to 20, means like 5 feet distance here. But from center of the tree to the center of the next tree, that's almost like 2.5, 5, 10, 15, so 17.5 feet apart from each other.
Oh, so are we talking about one tree, or is it like a
There are multiple
small
trees, right? Here's an
section?
almond tree. Don't put an almond tree next to it, apple tree, then pear tree.
Okay, okay. I was thinking that these are like big sections of areas, not just one tree.
No, there is one tree. These are feet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
from 7.5 to 25 feet. So you cannot have multiple trees in that small space in 17.5 feet, which is little more than the length of your minivan.
Yeah.
So permaculture design, you divide everything into zones. So zone 1, zone 2, here is somebody's home. They divide into zones. And in each zone, there'll be vegetable zone. There'll be street plant zone. There'll be woody trees. And then one place where chicken are happily improving the soil, right? There could be a bamboo feed. And then here there could be winds coming from outside. So you have a peripheral tall trees to protect this area. So what has happened in the modern times, house after house after house, if you construct like that, first of all, you won't have these things around you. And secondly, when a wind comes, 10, 20, 30 homes will get blown away at the same time. In Portland, one entire subdivision was burnt because there was no buffer zones, right? House next to house. So all of them got burnt in one shot. So if you have a pond, you use this, like there is different kinds of fish that can clean the pond. For example, red shiner, they are small fish. Liver bearers, even smaller fish. When you come to peppered cordials, they are like 9 inches long. But when you go to iridescent shark catfish, they go to 48 inches, like 4 feet long. So it depends on what kind of pond you have. So in the pond, you put this fish and they will clean the water for you. Fish are water cleaners. So people who eat fish are crazy, right? They are eating water filters. Fish are cleaning the water and people are eating the fish. So I put a LinkedIn article also. Fish are water cleaners, filters. So there are design relationships, right? So how do you lay out your ground? Using the natural pattern. Like you see the pattern that is there in nature. Krishna created all these patterns, and when you break the pattern, what will happen? Things won't work, right? You have a spiral pattern. If you see a mollusk, it'll have a spiral pattern in its body. The lobe is one pattern. Net is one pattern. So follow nature's patterns. So here is one farm where they took 32 varieties of trees and created a beautiful pattern, right? And then there are some patterns like now, if you take the acres, how many trees per acre, there are some metrics. How many coconut trees, how many fruit trees, size of large, small proportion. A lot of people are doing research in a lot of things. So you just have to use that. And then you have legumes, means ground nuts, which will fix the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen into the ground. So that once the next layer of crop comes, it becomes better. And the large trees once form a canopy. Canopy means instead of having a big shamiana, you put a large tree. That itself will be the shamiana, natural shamiana. Then you have smaller trees next to it. So if wind is breathing from this side, you have a structure. And then you have root vegetables here, number 4. Beetroots, herbs like that, under the protection of these tall trees. And then you can put a creeper here next to the tall tree. So whenever there is like a sloping thing, water will accumulate. So next to that, you can have what's known as a Hugo Culture. So Hugo Culture is like a water storage. You put tree logs, which will soak and it will keep the water there. and then you cover it with various kinds of waste matter, and then you cover it up with mud. I've seen it in Harulas Maharaj's farm. So when you open the top of the berm, you'll see actually steam coming out. So there is a lot of natural cooking going on here, and your waste matter is becoming composted. Right? So, and then you can use this fertilizer after some time when everything is composted, you can use that. It's called Hugo Culture. So here is one beautiful farm where they didn't have like one huge line, right? So you have seedling beds. You make the seeds, you put small baby plants. Then you put greens here, peas, beans, carrots. Then broad beds for staple crops. These are like for pulses, means like chana dal, moong dal, like that. They are in the outer edges. Right? And then you create a trellis for deciduous vine. Deciduous means like things that creep on the trellis. And then you have a pond. So there is a natural ecosystem here. So birds will come to drink water from the pond, there are fish in the pond, there are seedling beds. When they become big, you plant them here, right? And then keyhole beds for vegetables and herbs. Herbs are the best thing to grow because you'll become healthy. I have in my hand a packet of Wonderberry mix powder. This packet was sold in San Jose for like $7 or $8. But if you go to Tamil Nadu, you'll get the same thing for 7 rupees. Right? Because it's grown everywhere. So if you grow, then you don't need so much money. You think that you need a lot of money because you're not growing anything. So uncommon fruit orchard, like you have papa tree, Asian pear tree, hazelnut. So there is this symbiotic system, one next to each other. And on a slope, you put big trees and then small plants in between with some distance. And then you put nitrogen fixing cover crop like groundnuts, peanuts as they call in America. So that nitrogen is getting fixed from, there's a lot of nitrogen in the air. You don't need to put nitrogen fertilizer. You just need a plant that sucks it from the air and puts on the ground. And here there are various designs in which you can direct the water in your farm or your backyard. This is the symbiotic relationship. So nature has all these different designs. You have to adopt these designs, right? Don't create your own design. So here is an apple guild. Remember, we talked about guild. Guild means like a grouping of plants. And then there is various kinds of herbs on the far end. Trellises here for creepers. So there are benches that you can sit as a retreat. So when you put this design, right, natural Vastu Feng Shui will happen and you'll feel very happy if you sit in a farm like this. If you sit in an office, your brain is always anxiety. So here is one other design, right? So these are natural patterns in which you can have plants, right? So you leave the center open. Actually, according to Vastu, the center of your home should be open. We are all living in non-Vastu homes. So ideally, we should drill a hole through the center of our home. There should be empty space, Brahmastan. This is Brahmastan. So right now we don't do that. That's why we have all these illnesses. And so if you ever have to build a home, right, you have to have a rectangle. Center should always be open, only with a tulsi plant in the middle. And then northeast is your DT room. Northwest is your granary. Southwest is where you sleep. Southeast is where you cook. Ishanyam is northeast. Northwest, Yamastan. Not Yamastan. I forget the name. And then in this corner, southeast is where you should put the Agnistan. That is where you should put the stove. If you put the stove here in northeast, your devotional life will go to dogs and you'll become very poor. So I don't know your individual home Vastu. You have to figure it out. And you have to chant more Hare Krishna mantra, so that Vastu Purusha is counteracted by Lord's holy names. There's always signs. People say, oh, I'm always feeling sick, or I'm always in trouble. Well, look at what you're doing with your life. All the time you are dealing with materialists around you. You are probably cooking in the northeast corner, which burns away all auspiciousness. So we have to analyze these things. So here is one other diagram. So these consultants, Southwest Forest Gardens, and if you pay them $2,000, they'll come and analyze everything for you. Of course, I'm giving you principles of the same thing free of cost. But if you have $2,000 extra, you can go and hire them and they will do it for you. So you see, there are large succulents, perennials, turf grass, small shrubs, small trees, large trees. There is a science behind it. You see this? This is the front view, the home here. And there is a sequence in which, and the largest trees are usually in your periphery. Those are for your protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then geodesic domes. If you grow something in geodesic dome, there is some magic about these domes. You can
What
have
is
it
it, Prabhuji? Can you say the word again?
Geodesic, Geodesic.
Oh, okay.
Right? So there is something magical, and I don't know what the magic is, but it helps. So you can have a dome, grow a bunch of things, move the dome again to the next place. And it's also said that if you live in a geodesic dome, there is some kind of vastu energy that will work on you and you'll become very intelligent. There's so many theories. There's so many things in the Shastra. It will take a whole lifetime to understand all this. Best thing is to chant Hare Krishna and do some basics, like living on a farm, as opposed to living in a city. Because your city homes are not vastu compliant. You will not be happy in a city home. Impossible. Even if you pay $1.5, $2 million for a home, you will not be happy. So here's a life cycle of a tree: seed to sprout to sapling to oak to snag. Snag means dead tree. And there is a science around various layers within a tree. So there is a science, all these educational institutes are there. Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University, TAMU, I took it from their site. So there is a sequence from sprout to seedling to sapling to mature to decline and snag. And even when the tree is dying, it gives shelter to a lot of millions of small bugs. They live off of it. And you see this? You have to wrap your tree at the bottom with some covering so that rats don't and other rodents don't bite on your, when the tree is very small. So there are techniques to protect your tree.
Mm.
Techniques to prune. And then if you have a pecan tree, for example, you have to plant them 65 to 80 feet apart. They take 20 to 25 years to grow, but when they grow, they'll give you so many pecans. Right? And then there is a concept of hardiness zones, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. So they are defined by 10-degree Fahrenheit zones and 5-degree with like a minor A and B. So if you look at this diagram here, Seattle and Texas are in the same zone actually, light yellow. But it rains more here, therefore plants are greener, whereas Texas, everything is brown. So here's the zone map. You see the Seattle, California, parts of Texas, Alabama, Florida, they are all in one zone. But if you go to these northern climates, the tree with this rating will not grow here and vice versa. These are called hardiness zones. So this is minus 50 degrees, like Minnesota, where even human body will freeze if you don't have. When I went to Montreal, I had 6 layers of clothing on me. Otherwise, you'll freeze to death. 6 layers. So plants will also die. So usually you put it in like one level less, right? If you are living in minus 30 to minus 20, you go for a plant that survives minus 40 to minus 30 so that it doesn't freeze to death. So there are some techniques here: drip irrigation to save water. Water slowly, don't water very fast, right? Then there is an ag decision maker tool. Iowa University produced this. So right now, return on investment on agriculture is 5.08, and in stock market it is 7 to 8%. So it's not like you have to put all your money in stock market only. Even on agriculture, you can make decent money. All right.
Maybe here, Guruji, because in India, with all the labor issues that you have, I mean, literally, when my father-in-law had the crop for sugar cane, it was ready to harvest, but he couldn't find people to harvest on time.
Yeah, in India,
So we
politics also,
totally
right?
lost the whole crop.
Yeah, politics also. Somebody will say, hey, don't harvest that fellow's crop.
No, it's just that in India, government has brought some of these new schemes of 100-day program where the government pays the money and asks the people to work probably 1 hour in that one day. It's mostly chit-chatting, sitting around, typically, at least in Tamil Nadu, that's how it is. So people are literally, they're coming to us, I get the money I need from the government by not working too hard. So why should I come and work for you? Literally, that's what happened.
Yeah, we need communism in India. Just like China, right? They'll force people to work. You have to work. That's why
I
we,
mean, we don't need communism, but at the same time, the government should not be giving money like that.
yeah. No,
See,
what
if
I
the
meant is
government is
spiritual
making
communism,
them
right?
work and pay, then that's a different story, right? So I think that's more of the problem there.
What we need is spiritual communism, not material communism.
Yeah.
Spiritual communism means everybody has to work in harmony together to please God. That's called Varnashrama. That is the real communism.
Yep.
Even the materialistic communism doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some revolution and then those guys will be thrown out. So it is still violent. Spiritual communism is where everybody has to cooperate because you have to work for God.
Yeah.
Everybody works with each other to please God. When you take God out of the picture, materialistic communism happens. And when you add greed to the picture, capitalism happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, because of capitalism, there are people earning 20,000 a year in America, and there are people earning 200 million a year in America. Too much difference, right? Even in
Yeah.
Germany, the discrepancy is not so much. Between the lowest and highest salary in Germany, it will be 10 times. In America, it is 20,000 times. Unbelievable. And both of them have to eat only like, a pair of bread with some jam and, some avocado in between. It's not like the rich guy will eat 20 avocados. He will get loose motions. So farm prices from $18,000 to $5,000 to as low as $1,400. Like,
$1,400 per acre.
yeah,
Wow.
it's very cheap in America. In Iowa, of course, you have to go to Iowa, cold. So here we are in Northwest. Land is expensive here. There are places where land is very cheap, like in the Southeast. It's cheaper, like that. Farmland, not city land. City land will be,
Yeah.
1 acre will be 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So this is American statistics. Believe it or not, America is a rice country. Corn, but number 3 is rice. Yeah. Number 4 is rice, actually. Yeah. And lot is hay.
No, not even number 4. I think it's like
No, no,
5
no.
or
Hay is
6.
not grain, right? Hay is not grain. If you look at corn is 1, wheat 2,
Yeah.
soybeans 3, rice 4.
Cotton?
Cotton is not a grain. It's for
Oh.
clothes.
Okay.
You don't eat cotton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hay is eaten by cows, and then cows are killed, and meat is served. So this is the most dangerous thing, hay. And very dangerous for America because a lot of karma. So what you are seeing right now with all the bad things happening is just the beginning.
But I mean, killing the cows is bad, but repurposing hay is okay, right? Because
No, but they are growing hay so that they can feed the cows. If you use this green segment to grow more rice and wheat, and if everybody turns vegetarian, there is more food than you can eat.
Okay, got your point. Yeah.
Because it takes 20 pounds of hay or vegetable to produce 1 pound of meat. If you directly eat that as that, then we have superfluity, means we have excess food actually in America.
Hmm.
Excess. So water expenditure right now, it takes about $7 to $69 per acre to take care of water needs if you go drilling down into the aquifer. But aquifers are very deep, 800 to 1200 feet deep in some parts of America. Here in Seattle, you'll get water maybe in 10 feet, but not in other places.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge, very expensive to irrigate. That's why a lot of people are leaving farms and picking up. I know one person who left his farm and he's become a janitor. Which is more noble profession, farming or becoming a janitor cleaning other people's poop? Right? So farming is better, but they're unable to do it because they don't know these techniques of permaculture to minimize impact on land. So here are some return on investment models. Cash versus income versus management return versus return on assets, return on equity. So if you put all these things, farm net per acre is only $2,800 per year. So if you have 10 acres, you're only making 28K per year. So you need at least 50 acres to have decent income. Of course, you don't need 100K to live. About 45 to 50K is decent to live. So you need at least, I would say, 18 acres to live properly in America. And people are finding, hey, I can just sell some things on eBay and I can make the same amount, so why should I farm? But farming is what will keep you close to nature and close to God. All these other things will not. So again, farm net worth is 2,332. Income, if you have a decent sized farm, your cash flow will be 129K, which is about the same as an IT engineer. You have to work harder initially, but once the farm is set in motion, you're not growing. You're not saying, my dear peanut plant, can you grow? No, you just plant it and it will keep growing. So there are a lot of things USDA is providing. America is an agricultural country. That's why you have this organization called United States Department of Agriculture. They do a lot of research. Then Hugo Culture, remember I talked about how to create those Hugo culture mounts and where actually steam gets generated inside. Okay, Disha, please read.
Yes, Prabhu. Hugo Culture uses scrap materials cluttering your property. The ideal of the Hugo gardens is simple. You place logs on base of the garden bed and pile a mound on top of the logs with compostable material. In short, if you have a tree on your property which has fallen, it could be put to use to create a garden bed instead of cluttering your property, having it hauled off, or being burnt. Also, you can put your grass clippings and leaves to work as well in the style of gardening. Most materials which will break down over time can be tossed into this type of garden and be put to work instead of lying around creating more work for you. Second point, continually supplies nutrients to plants. Since logs take longer to break down, they will provide natural supply of nutrients to your plants over the years. If you have heard of a no-dig garden, this is the same principle. The difference with a no-dig garden, you must supply fresh wood chips each year to encourage composting to keep taking place. With a Hugo garden, the logs are breaking down year after year and putting off more nutrients for your plants as they compost. Hardwoods are the best woods to use for gardening purpose because they take longer to break down. If you use enough of them, they could supply nutrients for your soil to last
your Hugel garden for 20 years. Wow. Extended growing season. If you have created a compost bin, you know when the composting process begins. Your compost pile will heat up. The same process is happening inside your Hugel garden. When the garden heats up because of composting process, it heats the soil too. With the heating of the soil means your garden's growing time extends. Because the temperature of the earth makes a vast difference, you can start earlier this way because germination will happen if the soil is at right temperature. This is excellent news for gardeners who have shorter summers because of the planting zone.
Yeah, so if you live in the northern portion of the country and your summer is short, you extend it by heating up the earth. So composting is heating the soil. Continue.
Point 4, less water is necessary. Many people don't consider how hard water can become, sorry, most people don't consider how hard water can be to come by for people in some locations. When you live where you always have to watch how much water you use, you know gardening can be challenging. Whether you live where you must reserve water or you are someone who tries to live green, no waste lifestyle, this style of gardening could be right up your alley because it requires almost no water after the first year. You will need to water your Hugel garden in one year to allow the logs to absorb the water, which they will use to water your plants later. However, year after year, unless you have extended drought, you should have the water in your garden more than you shouldn't have to water your garden more than once in a season. Point 5, aerates your soil. Having aerated soil in your garden is important. Water moves through more easily moves more easily through the soil and your plants will have better drainage. Also, it is easier for your plants to spread their roots through the aerated soil and for root vegetables to be able to dug down and grow in their full size. As the logs in your Hugel garden break down, they help the soils to stay aerated, which produces a better quality of soil for years to come. Point 6, the garden has a sponge. As I mentioned above, after the first year of gardening, you shouldn't have to water your garden more than once a year. The reason for this is that logs act like giant sponge in the base of your garden. Wood can absorb vast amounts of water. This is good for your garden. Your plant roots will have a constant supply of water, which will make for healthier plants. Point 7 works in practically any location. Finally, choosing the Hugel garden is a wise idea because it works practically anywhere. If you live in a desert location where you get very little rain, this style of gardening should work for you because the sponge in the bottom of your garden.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It
Trees
is
are
very
like
interesting.
sponges. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are some
But
examples like cold hardy plants. They have a hardiness factor of 2 to 9, like peonies. Like my wife recently got some peonies planted in the front yard, right? So they will survive in a wide range. But there are some, they don't survive in a wide range, 9 to 11. So if you bring bougainvillea plants to a cold place and they require hardiness ratio of 9 to 11, they won't survive, right? Like I remember in Hyderabad when I was young, this was like 48 years ago, we used to have bougainvilleas everywhere because Hyderabad used to be cool. Now it became extremely hot, so you don't see those kind of flowers anymore, right? So usually you should go one step low in the plant hardiness factor.
would a Hugel garden be good in Seattle also with all the rain that we have in
Yeah,
Northwest?
Harulas Maharaj has a Hugel garden. Go and see it on his phone.
Really? Okay.
He showed it to me. He like lifted the cover and I could see steam coming out. I said, steam? How come? Because composting is happening, heat is coming out. Water became water vapor like that. Yeah, it is a very
Interesting. So it's like nature composting. And then you don't have any problem with rodents or anything because you're basically composting. You're putting all your scraps in there. Well,
no, because you're
it did
covering
not say put your
it,
kitchen
so
scraps in
rodents
there.
will begin. You have to cover it up with wood mulch.
Hmm. Yeah, you have to mulch it every year, and you don't put kitchen scraps in there.
Go,
You
go,
just
go to
put
his, go to his farm and see it. You'll be surprised,
yes,
right?
yep,
I mean,
yes,
my
yes, I will.
backyard is 3 feet wide, so I cannot do anything. But if you have a place, you should do practice all this before you go into bigger long-term farming kind of exercise. Actually, Vrindavan is a farm, Goloka Vrindavan. So if you want to please Krishna, you have to live in a farm environment. You cannot live in a materialistic city and expect to go back to garden. Impossible, right? This is it's a conclusion drawn by the scriptures. It's a conclusion drawn by my practical experience. At least, luckily, here we have some good trees in Samamish, but
Yeah.
still doesn't help. Your consciousness matters, right?
Yes,
You cannot buy consciousness in a market. You have to cultivate it.
yes, yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so trees have shallow roots, right? Top 12 to 18 inches only. They don't go very deep, but they spread out very much. Like if you look at a pecan tree that you buy in Costco, right? Pecans, whatever, $12 a packet. They spread like 30 feet wide, the roots. So you have to keep all those things in cognizance when you plan these things. Because if your backyard is 10 feet and you put a pecan tree, very soon the tree cannot grow. It will start pushing against your home. So here is a beautiful design, right? Different species all coexisting with each other. You see this banana, kela plant here. There is bamboo, and there are some small greens here. These are probably like regular greens that you cook. So this will harvest in 3-4 weeks. Banana maybe every year. Bamboo takes 25 years to harvest to make a bamboo pole. Very different time frames. But you see how the beautiful
This
design.
looks a lot of maintenance, Prabhuji.
Then how will you spend your life? Always making money? No. You have to think
No, no,
about
no. No, that's true. But this one, it really looks beautiful. I love it. I can easily see the space that we have can be used like this. But when I think about the amount of effort that you have to put for something like this, it's like, wow.
no pain, no gain. But you'll feel so good. All of a sudden, bananas are hanging from the plant, bamboos are there. You
Oh,
have
that's true. I love all those. It's just that trying to manage this every week by doing something or the other in the garden, that part, I don't know if I am ready for that.
and you see in the back there is a stream. Whenever the stream overflows, it'll bring nice silt here and it'll deposit natural fertilizer for you. See this here? Stream.
Mm-hmm.
So floods are good. People say floods are bad. No, they are good actually. You'll suffer for maybe 3-4 days. So you have to go somewhere and live. But once they go away, nice nutrient soil will be there. So here is one more design. Everybody's so creative. I'm amazed at people's creativity. Right? So big trees, small trees, medium trees. Ultimately, as you come close to your home, everything becomes smaller, smaller, smaller. Because for you to walk and pick a spinach, you don't have to walk 300 meters. That should be like a 3-meter walk for you. This is one other design. These people are probably living in a windy area. So only entrance is not trees, but everywhere else, periphery, they have trees. And near the house, you have all the herbs. So you can get cilantro, which is like 20 seconds fresh. Right? You pick it, you cook it. This is life actually. I mean, what we have is we are getting like frozen drumsticks from South India, which sit in the ship for 1 month, sit in Apna Bazaar for another 1 month, and then we buy. How do you expect for it to be tasty?
Forget about taste, the nutrition, that's not there.
No nutrition. It's all gone. Right? Ultimately, we are living to be happy. And right now, we are not happy. That's the whole problem. Ask anybody. Anybody will say, I want to be happy. Nobody will say, I want to be miserable, right? So
Yeah.
here, if you have a structure like this, right, you can get cilantro 10 seconds, 20 seconds fresh.
Mhm.
So permaculture, there are various, techniques like land stewardship. There are specific situations, design processes that we talked about, the 11 design principles that Rekha read out. So here is one other interesting thing. Their whole garden is like a leaf. See that? Walkway, mini walkways. So it is attractive. If you look at an aerial view, it looks like a leaf, but it's actually footpaths, small paths for occasional use. How amazing it will be.
Yeah.
So Sheshdev, you should experiment with all these things on your farm. Sheshdev there?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I'm like keenly.
Yeah, I'm giving you all ideas so that when you all become farmers, I'll tell you, without becoming a farmer, you cannot go back to garden. Krishna is not a urban man. He's not a Wall Street dude with a suit on. He has a flute.
I'm waiting for you to upload this to YouTube to send this to the devotees in Dallas.
Yeah. So Krishna has a flute, and most of the time he doesn't have even chappals on. Have you seen him with shoes? Krishna always walks barefoot. Have you seen that? Because he enjoys the floor of Vrindavan. I mean, if you don't have thorns, you can all walk on the floor, right? It's very pleasant. And I see this more in other countries than in America. In Germany, where I used to live, people used to walk barefoot when they were trekking. Here, they'll put on like a $50, $60 shoe, rugged shoe. So you are not experiencing Mother Earth when you are trekking, right? So very different cultures. You have to learn. I mean, Germany is one place where they still have that ancient Vedic culture alive. When we used to go with my daughter in the stroller, everybody used to move aside. I used to think, why are people moving aside? They respect. There is a small child, so they should be given first preference. No matter in which line we were in Germany, they used to always move aside and let us go first if you have a child in a stroller. That culture is there. So you have to design, plan and design, right? First thought, take a piece of paper, draw circles. I'll put my big trees here, I'll put small. And then you can get creative. You see, this is much more visually appealing, right? Design wise. So yellows are small trees, the oranges are small herbs, the greens are big trees, like that. These are again designs. So again, I've seen this guy who will probably charge you $2,000. He takes a piece of paper, some stencils and pencils, and he will draw them on a piece of paper. There's no sophisticated AutoCAD or anything like that. And then you iterate it, right? Oh, maybe I'll put this tree there. I'll put this tree there, like that. So remember, canopy trees protect your property. And then in the middle, you can have your more gentle plants, which will be easily be run over if there's too much wind, like that. So it's all about design. This is a very fantastic design. Look at that. Doesn't it look visually appealing? Don't you want to be there?
Yeah.
And this follows the principle of Vastu. Vastu, Brahmastan. The center should be very unique. Center, you always have Tulsi, and everything else radiates. And center, if you are building a temple, that's where your Garbhagudi is there, where the deity of Vishnu is there, and everything should. Like if you look at Srirangam, right? There are 7 concentric circles, not exactly circles, 7 concentric squares. So one following the other, like that. And if you look at pyramids also, same thing. So modern people have forgotten all these principles, and they are building these 2 BHKs in Hyderabad where toilet is there in northeast corner. So no matter how hard you work, you'll never get rich because you are pooping every day in northeast corner, Ishanya Mula, like that. Okay, so here are some fishes. I won't cover this. There are various fishes that you can put in the ponds that they do cleaning. Fish are water cleaners. So if any of your friends are eating fish, tell them, you idiot, you're eating a water cleaner. Right? What they do, they eat the pond debris. Debris means, what is debris?
Kachra.
Yeah, junk. So here's a beautiful pond. Right? So you can use the natural flow in your property to create a pond. And then there's some bamboo trees in a tray here next to the pond. Very interesting. Just by looking at it, you feel good. Here see, there is a natural pond in their property. So they put one kind of plants around the boundary and other kinds of plant in the middle. And they have greenhouses a little far away. This is the American Indians used to use this principle, right? You see these huge mounds, they go like a snake. So they're following the natural principle. On the left side is Bill Mollison's various designs on how to plan your property. On the right side is Victor Schauberger's design. Victor Schauberger is a very famous German scientist. He said water has all the power, so you have to harness natural water cycles. This is Schauberger's design principles. He has helix, and he has these curves everywhere he goes. And then with that, he created a rocket which uses water in particular flow to allow the rocket to take off. Very interesting model he had. It's called the tornado generator. It generates a tornado within an enclosed space. So coming back to some more designs. So you see there are Hass avocados here, Pinkerton avocados here, asparagus here, parsley here, kale and beets. So how close it is? Flowers and native shrubs are here. You just go out to plug them, and here's the dining table. You eat them there in the home. Their home is also not one building. There is a dining kind of building. There is a in-laws house. There is a hot tub in one corner like that. But of course, this is not Vastu compliant because your hot tub and water should be on this side, not on this side. North facing house. This is northwest. This is where you should keep your granary and heavy stuff. This is one other design. This is actually, I think, a company called Veg Edible Designs. This is their farm. And you see clothesline, never use dryers. I also minimize the use of dryer. Certain clothes which are easy to dry, I put them on clothesline, and which are difficult to dry, I put them in dryer. So this is America, this is not Vietnam. In America, people are using clotheslines to dry their clothes. So you see apple here, lemon here, plum here, apricot here, peach here, persimmon. So you don't have to ever go to a store. You have the complete range of plants. And again, I found a site where you pay a small subscription fee, and it will tell you which plants which trees will work in your state. So you cannot, try the wrong plants and they will die. What's the point, right? So if you look at this from Peru, so they follow natural flows. So there's one plant here, second plant here, third breed here, fourth breed here. And aerially also it looks like an art. This is not art. This is actually a farm. They use different patterns. Just like software engineering patterns, you have natural patterns. So this is one other design. This person, some person, Mike, is drawing his thing. He's planning out his farm. This is where I'll have cane fruit, sugar cane fruit. This is where I'll have annuals, and water from some other place will go here. And even the water from your toilet is recycled after some percolation. It will again join the system back. So more patterns. This is very interesting. This has a water garden here. You see that? These are water plants. He puts on the floor and it comes out. Ta-da. So this is how planning should be. If I look out of the side of my window, I see the neighbor's home. That's ridiculous. So some more patterns. Nature has patterns. You see this flower? So you follow patterns in whatever you do. Even this mushroom has patterns. You see this? More patterns. So frequent used salad crops are in the middle. Less frequent used is in next curve. Even less frequent used in the next curve, like that. And then you walk through this path. So this looks like a spinal cord of a human being. So one more aerial view. You have ponds and islands, fish in them, so they are cleaning the pond. Chicken cleaning the ground. Not to eat the chicken, huh? they have a purpose there. And then you have a banana circle. So you are creating a tropical forest in America. Bees here. Of course, it takes 10 years to get to this point, not in one day. But when you have it, you have it. You'll enjoy it for the remaining 20 years that you live. You'll not live forever. And then your kids will take over and their kids, like that. So here they're talking about 3 times 10-day harvest for the smaller things. Of course, you have these apples that almost perennial all the time they give you. Oregano, these herbs have a different cycle. So you have to plan these cycles. This is very interesting. Huh? It looks like a spiral. They planted these plants like a spiral and a different breed in the internal spiral. So interesting. Somebody called Josh Davis put this together. So you see these ancient patterns. These are the Native American patterns. They have this rhythm between, so you have a spiral, and then you have this pattern of a snake, and then that is feeding into some kind of a solar pattern. And you see this? They are taking this solar pattern and putting it to summer solstice. So it has some effect. I don't know fully what it has, but it has some benefit. So one more rose, planning rose. One more design. So this is the house, and they have all kinds of things around the house. And that's the end. So questions, thoughts?
A lot of good information, Guruji, for us to at least start thinking about it and then maybe take baby steps. Right now, I know that, as I said, I like all these ideas, but I don't know whether physically I am ready to take the challenge.
That is the challenge, right? Because physically we are very weak. Always sitting in front of a computer. So we have to train the body to again come back to nature.
Yep, yep.
Warren Buffett is 90 years old, but he grew up on a farm. That's why he made it to 90. People grow in cities. Most of the time you hear people die at 60.
Okay, okay.
I am picking up a slide of this challenge. I'm going to try to use some of this techniques in my backyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. That'll be my baby steps.
And if you sell your home, you can buy a 100-acre plot in Texas. I'm not joking.
That's the goal. Work towards the goal.
Yeah. I put in an offer. The 83-acre plot is only 290K. So we are still negotiating. It is not in my hands yet. And if I don't get it, I'll put an offer on a different plot. But that's what it is. For the amount of money you spend here for living room and bathroom, you can get a 50-acre plot in Texas.
Agree.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, what is our goal? Our goal is to please the Lord. How do you please the Lord?
Yes.
By becoming rural, not urban. Urban people will not go back to God.
Yeah.
Because our consciousness is always about, hey, I have to go buy this from Walmart, I have to buy this from Costco. You should be in such a way that you don't have to buy anything, right? I mean, maybe you need to buy rice or wheat, atta, because growing that is very, very back-breaking. You know, it's not easy. Maybe one or two items, but rest you should live naturally. That's it. Like in one of the farm communities in India, I sent a link. Did I send a link for that Hindi? Did you see that? An MBBS doctor became a brahmachari and he's living on the farm. And he was doing that thing that they do in India, villages, right? Ladies, you make that in Telugu, it's called tiragali. You put some grain in the middle and you make it go round and round. And the flour comes from the sides. He's an MBBS doctor and he's doing that. And he feels very happy, at least from his face. He's already doing it. Right? Whereas you see all these rich people who have $20 million mansions, they commit suicide because they are very unhappy internally.
There is definitely a truth behind, like, you know, when you go close to nature, when you're growing something, it gives you this internal happiness and satisfaction. I did not know how much, I did not know I could do anything, any of this sort. I've never grown anything. Lived all my life in Dubai. Like, when I came over here and it was COVID, I was like, okay, let's get into doing something. And my first tomato plants, and it's unbelievable. Like, you know, they're like small little babies now, but it's just so rewarding to see small little tomatoes come out, and you know, kids enjoying it, and it's beautiful. It is very, 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 you know, the inner satisfaction, the inner happiness. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I get
So right
when I'm
now you
looking
are
at my
getting it
plant
like
little
2 hours
growing.
a day, but what if
Yes.
you made that your life, right? That's what the focus should be.
Yeah,
Planting for
totally.
2 hours, taking care of your garden for 8 hours, taking care of your kids for 3 hours. If you do that, think about it. It's amazing. Of course, we are all afraid. We don't want to take that first step, but if you do it, it's amazing. And
Yeah,
we are not growing younger also, right? As you grow old, it will become
true,
more difficult. So you have to do it when you have energy.
true.
Yeah. Okay.
We can all go anytime in the evening or anytime. There's always something to do there. Even if we don't have a garden, at least we can go for at least once a week or something like that. It's really, really nice. And I tried
Yeah.
this summer. It's
You can do a
really
pilot.
fun.
You can go on his farm and do it, but eventually you have to move that in that direction. For example,
Yes.
Bharti Mataji and
Yeah.
they're already looking for property to move onto a farm because they took initiation from Maharaj. They got so inspired looking at his farm. They said, I also want to have my own farm. Like that. Yeah. Of course, you have to work out the financials. Nothing is as rosy, right? You have
Yes.
to pay annual taxes of $10,000 on a farm. So, and then you need $30,000 to live. So at least you need to be able to make 40,000 on the farm by selling produce or something. You know, nothing is free in the world. Or if you have like a $500,000 saving, you can go tomorrow, which is doubtful for most people. But for people who are wealthy, they should go do it right now. Why wait till old age, right? You can still give professional management to your businesses, and then you can live on the farm and chant Hare Krishna. But if you cannot afford it, then you need to have a financial plan, right? You have to see how much retirement money you're getting from 401k or whatever. And then what is the delta? And then you should be able to generate that remaining amount through sale of produce. Yesterday, I saw a video on YouTube where this person, white American, he was saying you don't need too much land. He showed a 2,000 square foot patch in his backyard and very nicely plowed. And, he said he made $20,000 last year by selling herbs like kale and various more, you have more, how should I say, pricey herbs where you can get a higher price. And he showed how he's using the baskets to wash, how he loads onto the truck. And he said, I'm good, $20,000 a year. I mean, he probably makes in his day job another $20,000. So $40,000, he's very happy. He doesn't have to report to a boss. He is perfectly happy.
Prabhu, I have a side question about, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have a side question about, chickens and animals and like I realize Prabhu has cows on the farm, yes, but no chickens.
You don't need to dig the ground. You don't need them technically. The good thing to have is cows and calves. That is sufficient because they'll give you all the fertilizer to fertilize the ground. Once in a while, you can have goats. Goat fertilizer is also very strong in nitrogen. But again, our goal is not to sell the goat to a slaughterhouse, right? They let the goat die naturally. Yes. You find a corner in the farm and bury it. That's it.
Okay. So once the animal dies, you just bury the animal in the ground. There is no...
And within no time, it will become fertilizer, right? Yeah. When we die, within no time, we will also become fertilizer.
No, but in Hindu tradition, you burn,
No, for human beings, we burn because the Atma will get attracted to the body and it will not go on to the next body.
Oh.
So you have to burn.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's chant now.
Oh, Prabhuji, then why is the Christianity